In the heart of a remote village of what is now Croatia, where the winds whispered secrets and the thunderstorms held untold power, a fateful night unraveled. It was July 10, 1856, when the world trembled beneath the weight of an impending storm. The very heavens seemed to shiver with anticipation, as if they too sensed the extraordinary event about to transpire. As the clock struck midnight, amid the chaos of crackling lightning and roaring thunder, a child was born. The midwife, gripped by an inexplicable sense of premonition, proclaimed him the child of the storm, fearing the mysterious forces that brought him into this world. Yet, his mother, a beacon of unwavering belief, saw beyond the tempestuous night and whispered resolutely, "No, a child of light." Years later, as if destiny awaited him, in the dark corners of his house, his beloved cat called Macaque walks towards him, except that he can't see much. However, nature had created the right conditions for what happens next. The cat's fur seemed to have a glow that illuminated the room slightly. Curious, the child reached onto the cat when a spark of static electricity lit up the room with a bright light. "What was that, father?" he asked, unable to contain his excitement. And in that moment, his father, captivated by his son's boundless wonder, he smiled and replied, "That, my dear child, is electricity." In that breathtaking moment, the young prodigy turned to his father, eyes gleaming with wonder. With a voice barely containing his excitement, he asked the question that would forever alter the course of his life. "So, does that mean that the Earth is a giant cat?" As a child, Tesla was deeply inspired by his mother, Juka, to invent things. She constantly sought to make mundane devices better and help her around the house more efficiently. Later in life, Tesla would recount the fact that he believed that if it wasn't for the fact that they lived so remotely from modern life, she would have been a great inventor. Following her footsteps, he would also create his little inventions, without much success of course, but incredible nevertheless. As a child, he possessed an incredible imagination, often seeing things vividly as if real objects was in front of him. His amazing imagination, though, came at a price. Often he would have problems with the images so intensely in his mind that it bothered him throughout his childhood. That meant machines, objects, people, and ghostly entities would appear out of nowhere. This problem drove Tesla into anxiety crisis, making him feel weak and powerless. At the age of 7, he witnessed his beloved older brother die in a freak accident involving the family's horse, completely changing the dynamic between him and his father. A once active and charismatic man, Milutin became distraught by the loss of his favorite son, for who he believed would follow his footsteps and he was incredibly proud of. With only the younger son left, Milutin turned his attention to Tesla. However, his methods of teaching were nothing like it was for his brother. Father and son relationship was always tense, and Tesla really felt that detachment. His passion for reading was always stifled by an angry father who saw reading novels and scientific papers as foolish activities that deviated a man's attention from his social responsibilities. It was this relationship that triggered Tesla to develop many strange behaviors later in life. A lot of Tesla mannerisms came from the fact that while trying to gain his father's approval, he was never good enough. However, this relationship imprinted one, if not the most important principle into Tesla's mind: the social responsibility to do or to create things for the betterment of society. This is the reason Tesla was a purist. He understood that the essence of an inventor was to create things to improve, to help society become better. After Tesla completed his high school years and went home, his hometown was gripped with cholera and unfortunately, he fell victim to the disease. He struggled for 9 months to the point that everyone thought his death was imminent and ordered his coffin. In a moment of despair, when it seemed death was inevitable, his father rushed to his side in a last effort to not lose another son and encouraged him to rally his strength. Though his father wanted Tesla to follow his footsteps and become a priest, he gave up on the idea and promised him that if he lived, he would allow him to pursue engineering and go to the best technical institution in the world. Tesla would also have to enlist into the military, to which he would have to serve for 3 years. His father feared that he was still too weak to do it, and so they plotted to hide him so he wouldn't have to go. For 9 months, Tesla not only had all the time to recover, but he could also dive deep into his favorite activity, which was reading and creating things with his mind. When he came back, he was delighted to see that his father kept his promise and secured a scholarship that granted him a position at the Polytechnic School of Graz in Austria. In university, he excelled at everything. Professors all praised him for his intelligence, but they all were also worried that he could die of exhaustion since he only slept 3 hours per night, and every other minute of the day he spent studying. On his second year, he was bullied by one of his colleagues, basically pointing out that he had no life besides warming up the chair inside his room. Those comments hit him deep and made him deviate completely into playing cards, billiards, and gambling. Of course, he became really good at it, but he also became addicted to the lifestyle. His father was extremely disappointed when he found out, and their relationship worsened. He passed away not too long after. Distraught but still under the gambling addiction, the day of reckoning came when his mother decided to use her own tactics to send him back into a path of greatness. She used a simple but extremely effective method. Tesla came home one day after losing all his money in a card game, needing more money. His mother took all their money and precious items and gave it to him with the following words: "Go, take everything we have. The faster you lose it all, the better things will become afterwards." Like a bolt of lightning, those words shook him to his core, and right there and then, his gambling addiction was gone. Though life wasn't easy for Tesla in his early years, it is important to note that all circumstances helped shape young Tesla into a man that not only could deal with what is to come, but he could do so with grace and ingenuity. From his mother, he gained a passion for inventing things, and from his father, he understood his social responsibility. They helped him become the man that would change the world. He worked for Edison only 6 months. Now, the dynamic of bosses and incredibly gifted employees hasn't changed that much. Edison was known to be a competitive and often arrogant man. In this instance, I believe that his arrogance blinded him from what was in front of him: a billion-dollar mind. At the end of the day, while both men were incredible inventors, we must acknowledge that Edison was more of a crude, trial-and-error type of guy, while Tesla was more imaginative and technical. Yes, Edison invented the light bulb, but how many tries it took for him to achieve his goal? Sounds more like throwing spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. Tesla, on the other hand, envisioned his creations and worked with logic and wisdom to achieve it. Regardless, the writing was on the wall. Tesla was a threat to his business. And in my opinion, he fully grasped that threat once Tesla showed his incredible abilities to solve complex problems. As everyone knows, companies usually eliminate threats by firing or making their stay so uncomfortable that they end up quitting. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people in my audience probably experienced similar things. I know I did. However, once in a while, the person you might be dealing with may not be as hopeless as you think. And this time, Edison wasn't dealing with some nobody that would disappear as soon as he either quit or was fired. Tesla would prove to be his worst nightmare. Long after quitting, Tesla was approached by two men, Benjamin Vail and Robert Lane. They wanted to enter the electric lighting business and saw in Tesla their opportunity to start their business. Thus, the Tesla Electric Light and Manufacturing Company was born. He quickly improved generators, arc lamps, and regulators and filed patents under the company. Thinking that his business would take off, Tesla sought to convince Vail and Lane that he could do much more, but it was to no avail. The two men were only interested in the arc light business, and not too long after they had just started, the two men ditched Tesla and started their own firm. Since Tesla patents were under the company's name, it meant that he could not use his own inventions. In other words, they screwed Tesla. Thus, the heart was all about DC power. But Tesla, well, he just had better ideas. To him, it was a no-brainer that AC power was the way to go, especially for long-distance transmissions, a technology far superior to what Edison had to offer, and this caused a lot of headaches for him. Why was Edison so threatened by Tesla? It comes down to economics, really. Edison's business was literally based on DC power transmission limitations. Because DC power transmission is confined to a short distance, it meant that every few street blocks on the city would have to have a power station burning lots of coal next to them. So the amount of money just for building and maintaining the infrastructure was the only thing Edison cared about. On top of that, Edison made sure to restrict all patents, which effectively created a monopoly. Basically, there was no room for innovation or collaboration with other inventors. The complete opposite of what Tesla believed and preached. Now, with the introduction of AC power transmission, suddenly you can have a power plant hundreds of kilometers away from the city and harness natural power sources, like water for instance, and it's reflected on the cost for consumers. AC was far cheaper than the alternative. Edison was so threatened by Tesla's ideas that he started a whole campaign to discredit AC power in an attempt to save his ego. He called it the War of Currents, which was basically a PR nightmare. Edison's company, General Electric, went as far as to stage public demonstrations where they electrocuted animals using AC power, a desperate measure that served only to showcase how cruel men during the 1800s were towards animals. Nobody knows for sure how many animals he fried, but it included cats, dogs, monkeys, and when things really got desperate, an elephant named Topsy was turned into barbecue. But did it work? Electrocuting animals paid off, because Edison helped create the electric chair and went as far as to suggest, rumors at least, the DC chairs were more lethal. When all public demonstrations failed, personal attacks started. He publicly called Tesla's AC power system a fraud and a waste. Not only that, but every single major scientific publication of the time, with a lot of Edison's influence, took a stab at Tesla, where almost all of them directly condemned AC power as dangerous. Even Scientific American attacked Tesla's ideas as dangerous. Now, you would think that media getting paid to take sides is a problem of today. Well, Tesla was already facing that over 100 years ago. Regardless of all his efforts, Edison was fighting a losing battle, and his fear was obvious. I guess when you figured out how useless 99% of your business model is because of one dude with one invention that pretty much will destroy everything overnight, even I would be afraid. However, all of this could have been avoided if only Edison left his arrogance at home. The problem here wasn't really switching to AC and partnering up with Tesla. No, far from it. It was the fact that by doing so, he would acknowledge Tesla as being superior to him. So much so that if he actually went with AC, he would make a lot more money. But his ego spoke louder than reason. Think of it in terms of economics. Thomas Edison's DC power plants had a limited transmission range due to the nature of direct current. The maximum transmission was typically around 1.6 kilometers or less. Direct current experiences significant power losses over long distance due to the resistance of the wires. As the distance increases, the voltage drops, and the power loss becomes more pronounced. To maintain an adequate voltage level for reliable operation, the power plants had to be located close to the consumers. What this meant in practice was that DC power stations could only power about 18 city blocks in New York City, assuming a city block of 90 meters in length. So the city would need hundreds of power plants. In other words, for anybody with 2 brain cells, this idea would quickly turn into a logistical nightmare. This limitation in transmission range was one of the key factors that eventually led to the decline of Edison's DC system in favor of alternating current. And to prove this, Westinghouse signed a contract with Tesla to use his motor in Niagara Falls. And this is where things take a turn for the worse for Tesla. There wasn't much he could do about his business. Edison started using his influence and power to get to Tesla. His loss was far from graceful. Immediately, he started promoting ideas to tarnish Tesla in the eyes of backers. His goal was quite simple. If everyone thinks he's crazy, they will fear doing business with him. Often, rumors circulated questioning Tesla's mental stability. Then, he claimed that Tesla's ideas were often impractical and that he had little to no understanding of the industry. And it worked. Tesla lost a lot of potential investors when those rumors started circulating. Next, he took things to the financial side. Edison's company, Edison Electric Light Company, launched legal challenges against Tesla's patents. One significant example was the Electric Light Company versus Stanley Electric Manufacturing Company case in 1888. Edison's legal team sought to discredit Tesla patents for AC systems, claiming they were based on prior art or lacked originality. These legal battles not only drained Tesla's financial resources, but also created uncertainty around the validity of his patents, making potential investors wary of supporting technologies with potential legal disputes. To make matters worse, he made industry alliances. Edison had formed alliances with influential figures and companies in the industry, such as General Electric, which he co-founded. These alliances gave Edison access to resources, financial support, and a powerful network of supporters. Tesla, on the other hand, faced challenges in securing partnerships and collaborations due to the industry's alignment with Edison. Many companies were hesitant to risk their relationship with Edison and his established DC systems by supporting Tesla AC technology. While all of this slowed down Tesla, it was far from over. Edison knew that he had to do one thing to stop the man, which meant he needed to make sure that any new patent would not be granted to Tesla. And so, the radio wars began. Being a creative genius is tricky, because while you're busting your ass turning your idea into reality, grifters always took advantage of his work. Tesla was constantly getting screwed over by people stealing his design and not giving him credit. He was a prolific inventor, and that made a lot of people uncomfortable. Everyone was after him. While working on his inventions in his lab, he found out that some of his workers were actually moles, stealing his ideas. On March 13, 1895, at Tesla's laboratory located in New York City, caught fire and was completely destroyed. Tesla's laboratory was filled with a wide array of experimental equipment, machinery, and inventions. The fire reportedly started in the basement of the building and quickly spread, engulfing the entire structure. The cause of the fire remains unknown, and there are various theories surrounding its origin. The fire caused extensive damage to Tesla's lab, destroying much of his equipment and valuable scientific work. Many of his notes, prototypes, and experiments were lost in the blaze, dealing a significant blow to Tesla's ongoing research and projects. I should point out that a lot of people benefited from this, but one person benefited more than everybody else, and that was Guglielmo Marconi. It wasn't much of a competition for Tesla, but he was into radios and he did improve radio systems a lot. But the maximum range that he achieved was 300 kilometers. On top of that, he was a public skeptic for transmissions above that range. Multiple times he criticized Tesla for his belief that he could transmit not only radio signals around the world, but also energy. Even though Marconi's systems were pretty good, he had a hard time securing big contracts, and capital for further investments were short. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he devised an experiment to showcase the possibility of Atlantic communication. Sounds like somebody really powerful and with a lot of influence decided to help. Marconi set up stations in Cornwall, England, and Cape Cod in America. Now, here's where things get fishy. Not only his system was very similar to that of Tesla, but a storm also destroyed his antenna in Cape Cod. Almost immediately, he had another one ready in Newfoundland, which was the closest point in North America to England. This goes to show how much investment was suddenly available to him. In England, Marconi instructed his team to transmit SSS in Morse code between 3 and 6 p.m. each day from December 11 on. Now in North America, Marconi and his team conveniently heard the signal on December 12, 1901. On December 14th, he issued a press statement on his achievement, only to be met with skepticism. A rival competitor, Lee DeForest, even questioned if the signal he heard was from Earth, poking fun at Tesla, who a few years earlier thought to be receiving signals from Mars. Furthermore, he criticized Marconi, implying that we will never hear no more transatlantic messages for some time. In this art, as in all other inventions, advance will be by slow growth and evolution, not by magnificent bounds from 300 to 3,200 kilometers. Again, with sudden investment pouring in, he was able to secure his final experiment to prove everything once and for all, with a trip from England to America, where the entire time crew witnessed messages being received throughout the trip. As soon as he proved his radio transmission worked, a speculative bubble started, and nobody knew for sure if radio was the future or not. Suddenly, investors were scared of putting money into anything radio, which literally meant that Tesla would never get the money he needed to finish his projects. After years of constant criticism from tabloids and the scientific community, Tesla's perceived failure at delivering his promise of wireless transmission and energy fell into further scrutiny, and he finally became synonymous with failure and mad science. Not too long after that, JP Morgan ceased any financial help for Tesla. Tesla was a true genius who got screwed over time and time again. And even though the US government actively tried to erase him from American history books in favor of the great American inventor Thomas Edison, it was the tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorists that kept the spirit of Tesla alive. If you're still wondering why governments hate conspiracy theorists so much, well, wonder no more. What impresses me the most is that he was never truly recognized for his achievements until recently. What's worse, the Nobel Prize started in 1901, and Tesla died January 7, 1943. Just like most great geniuses in history, Tesla died poor and alone, largely forgotten for who he was and what he had given to humanity.